Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today. We're going to discuss really what is just the most popular product category out there right now. So capable, so many amazing installation success stories now in the recent and history preceding. It's AV over IP, specifically our 4K AV over IP product family, because it truly does it all. And so we're going to be focusing on all the 4K stuff here. So you do see on the far right, the IP 1080s, as the name implies, they only do 1080p, and they're a simple product. We're not going to be focusing on that today. So when you're going to get started with AV over IP, this might be a new category for some of you. Or just your first time working with Key Digital's AV over IP. And so what are those system preparations, right? A lot of technicians will ask these kind of questions. Well, first of all, our 4K AV over IP products, they're using Motion JPEG 2000, which is the most commonly used compression standard in AV over IP in our industry. And it's, I guess you could say that it is a low compression but high bandwidth resultant. Okay, so there's little compression, but it results in a high bandwidth. If you're outputting 4K from your video encoder, your video source is outputting 4K, it goes into the encoder, it's broadcast throughout the network, and that 4K broadcast approaches 900 megabits per second. It's going to be about 850. And that's per 4K content, right? For 1080p content, it's 250 megabits per second, and less so for 1080i and 720p. So that low bandwidth, low compression, high bandwidth results in a very low latency as well, which is a great benefit of this compression standard. You're going to result, your compression standard results in 40 milliseconds at 4K. 60 and you're 60 frames per second, anything 60 frames per second, 40 milliseconds. And that's very important because it's only one frame behind, and it's beneath the threshold of the human eye detecting that latency, which is 50 milliseconds. So you're not going to have any noticeable audio latency, nor will you have if you're using keyboard and mouse, as you'll see some of the connectivity on the products. Your user won't get frustrated by, dragging the mouse across the screen and having that appear to be delayed. They are all PoE powerable, consuming less than 9 watts per unit. So when you do the math, you could pretty much max out, have every port occupied on your PoE switches. And this system, because of that high bandwidth, it does require Cat6 cabling. Okay, Cat5e is not going to cut it when you're getting towards a gig of bandwidth over that being pushed over that network wire. Another very important and very unique feature of Key Digital is that your AV over IP system will be configured in our lab by our AV over IP specialist team. So when you submit your purchase order, you also should submit a completed AV over IP system configuration questionnaire. You will tell us the things like the names of each devices and your desired IP address for each device. And if you don't know the granularities, is that the word, of the of what the IP address should be exactly, you could also just click that little checkbox you see here, use this subnet, and tell us 192.168.10. From 50 on up is all yours, for example. You'll also notice that every one of our units uses 2 IP addresses. This is also very unique. It's because one is for what we call the main IP address, and this handles all the inter-device communication, because these are many tens or dozens or hundreds of individual endpoints that must communicate together to make a system. We call that the main IP address. And if you're seeing if you're following along at home, the video IP address from the other column here, that's handling the transmission and the reception of the video broadcast. We didn't want all the inter-device communication to interrupt the video broadcast. And you're going to see some of the really cool stuff we could do with the inter-device communication as well. But the point of this slide is about the configuration form. Fill that out. We're going to configure it. We're going to Also burn it in our lab so that you're not going to have any RMAs of products, any surprises when you go to install a product. And all in all, this just makes for such a turnkey, okay? When you open the box, it's all ready to go. Now, the other thing is with our system, you see some of the brands that are our partners, technology partners for this, but really we have a list of our verified network switches. You must use one of our verified network switches. And we give you this verified network switches list on every one of our AV over IP products for you to refer to. What are the brands and the models that are verified? And verified means verified. It's not just, hey, these look like it should work because the spec sheet says so. We actually get it in our lab and test it out for 2 months, making sure that that IGMP, that Internet Grouping Management Protocol, doesn't collapse on us, because we've seen that over time. And that doesn't mean a product is bad. Oftentimes, we then communicate with the engineers at those companies. After all, you see that they are our partners. And as it says here on this slide, step 1 is to configure that network switch. Now, hey, if you want to purchase a network switch and send it to our lab at Key Digital, we're also happy to configure it for you. And then we'll actually do the burn-in process with your network switch as well. Just again, making things even that much more turnkey. But it is step 1 because you don't want to plug in all of the AV over IP units without the network switch configured. It can cause a lot of issues on that network. If that IGMP isn't, if the broadcast isn't directed, pointed as it should, encoders to decoders. So moving on, again, we have a whole family of AV over IP products. First one I want to focus on with you is the IP922s and the 822s. We have encoders and decoders for both. Think of the IP922s as the fully loaded product. And then what happened was, as does happen when you're a manufacturer, is some, people said, hey, I love these products, but if we could get the price down more, then I can sell more. And so shortly later, we introduced the IP822s. They have less connectivity, making them about 2/3 the cost of the IP922s, but you can mix and match within the same system. They're intercompatible. So you can truly optimize your system. And so you're going to see some features that are on the 922. For example, audio de-embedding that are not on the 822s. So if you need audio de-embedding from your AV sources in the rack, maybe you use all 922 encoders, but decoders behind each display, perhaps you don't need the audio de-embedding. You use your decoders there. Just one common example for you. So the first key capability of the IP822 922 mix and match system is video wall processing. Very, very popular, and video walls are just becoming increasingly common now. And how it works is we could support video walls up to 16 by 16. You just need one decoder per display. Every display gets a decoder because there's built-in video processing inside of each decoder. We could do up to 16 wide by 16 high. And we could do screen rotation as well. And we even have this great feature where you could break each video wall from the main video wall into these sub video walls, as you see here. And it's very easy to manage. You could do this through the Key Digital management software, or you could do this from our free Key Digital app, where you have your video wall control. You choose your source and you just drag your finger diagonally across a section of that video wall. Or if it's just, you want to just do individual tiles within the video wall, choose a source, just press, and you're not dragging your finger there. And so this is an extremely valuable feature. And this is also easily done through third-party systems as well. We have a list of commands, and we have a video wall management commands document on the website for all of these 4K AV over IP products, decoders specifically, I should say. Another key capability here is downscaling per decoder. Now, I've already mentioned how each decoder has video processing inside. So, of course, we can take the incoming 4K content and down convert it to 1080p. This is hugely valuable. You got to encounter opportunities where they have 1080p displays and projectors, especially those projectors are very expensive to change out, especially if you have many of them. And so you could distribute 4K content, have it received in 4K at all the 4K capable displays, and down converted to 1080p at the 1080p decoders receiving that signal at the 1080p capable displays. So a quick side-by-side comparison, both video wall capabilities within the 822s, 922s, all equal. Both encoders, 822s and 922s, have an HDMI pass-through. So that's really great for your presentation applications where you might want to have a confidence monitor right in front of you. On the 922 decoder, there is a local HDMI input as well. So imagine, for example, you have a house of worship and you have a Bible study room where you want to deliver and send that main feed during some sessions, but other times, you know, somebody's coming in, they plug in their laptop, and that decoder can switch over to that local input. So each decoder is like a 2x1 switch for the 922s only, not for the 822 decoder. In the center there, you see these 3-pin Phoenix connectors. Those are IR, RS-232, or even voltage trigger ports. There are 3 on the 922s. There are 2 on the 822s. We haven't talked about those yet. We're going to in more details because they are really what makes this system extremely valuable. On the 922, there is a local audio input on the encoder. We could actually see it pictured here. This 3.5 millimeter port says external left, right. This is not a mix in, but you could choose to associate the incoming HDMI feed with that local audio input instead of the HDMI audio. On the 922s, they have audio de-embedding. As we see, it's a 6-pin balanced, unbalanced Phoenix connector analog. And on that analog audio de-embed, there's also volume control, muting control, 3-band EQ, and latency adjustment. So it really can cover all your preamp features. You could even just send that directly in your 70-volt amplifier system in many cases. And we even give you the ability to control the volume and muting controls in our free app as well. So I'll show you more on that. But that feature is not there in the 822s, as I had alluded to previously. The 922s have 2 LAN ports. It's kind of like a 2-port switch, right? Imagine you have a projector that you'd like to control over IP, and it has a LAN port, but you only have a single Cat6 wire, and now the decoder is using that Cat6 wire. Well, now you could just connect an additional patch cable into the projector, and you have it on your network as well. The 822, of course, only has 1 LAN port. The 922 has USB keyboard, video, mouse connectivity. It is limited bandwidth. It does not support cameras, but keyboard, video, mouse, as said here, perfect application. We'll even show an application example where that comes in handy here. There are no USB ports on the 822s. The USB is specific, I should add. The encoder always must connect to a USB host like a computer or conferencing appliance. The decoder must always connect the devices like the keyboard and mouse. And although you see power supplies on both the 922s and the 822s, the 922s include the power supply, the 822s do not. We assume you're using a PoE switch. It allows us to reduce the costs and pass that savings along to you. Once again, the IP822s come in at about 2/3 the cost of the 922s. Now let's get into what I promised would really be a valuable feature of the 822, 922, all of our 4K AV over IP products. In fact, that is these 3 and 2 multifunction ports. Again, 3 of them on the 922s, 2 on the 822s. They have a variety of usages. Number 1 that we're going to highlight, compass control, also our KD app source and display control, and the open API. I'm going to highlight these 3. The other 2 are pretty simple and straightforward. So starting with using these encoders, decoders as a key digital compass control system master controller. So we've had our compass control system now since 2012 at Key Digital, and it's given us so much experience and expertise that we've accrued about systems, and we get to build that expertise into these products. So here, for example, is a sports bar where you go in, you do your walkthrough, you see, hey, we're going to do 8 satellite boxes, a cable box, and a digital signage player to, distribute like a menu board. And they're going to have 15 displays, 14 flat panels, 1 projector. Well, with the 922s, you've got 3 control ports built in. So these 10 plus 15, 25 encoders, decoders equals a 75 port control system that's there, and it's in all the locations you need it to be, because AV over IP is like a decentralized system. But your encoders, I'm sure you're gonna have plenty of those in the rack as well. So all the in-rack gear is covered. 822s, 2 ports per unit. So you're gonna have between 50 and 75 ports. It's going to be thousands of dollars of savings when your client is considering your proposal versus your competitor's proposal. All you got to do is program the system. And it's not just controlling the sources and displays. You could control the motorized screen. We have trigger capability. You can control RS-232 controlled DSPs or amplifiers, security panels, thermostats, lighting controlled systems might be over IP. So anything that's IR, RS-232, and TCP/IP is all controllable and integratable with Compass Control Pro. Now, something that has just continued to develop and make the system even more and more powerful is our free Key Digital app. So Compass Control has programming, and it has a license as well for each iOS controller. With the free Key Digital app, as I imply, it is free. What the Key Digital app does is it scans the network, it finds the Key Digital app ready system, and it gives you a UI for controlling that system. And what we've now done is we've added not only controlling the AV routing, but it's continued to develop. And now we have what's called the source and display control feature, where you'll connect an IR emitter over each display's IR sensor. Similarly, your connect an IR emitter to your controllable sources. And you could tell us about this in the configuration questionnaire, or we could set it up here in the Key Digital Management software with you, where you just tell us from this list of supported displays: LG, Samsung, Sony, Vizio, Epson, Panasonic, Philips Pro, and Sharp. And the supported sources, you see the drop-down menu: DirecTV, Dish Network, Comcast Xfinity, Cisco HD Explorer boxes, Aris, that's really huge for our partners in Canada. Motorola Sky Q, once again important for partners outside of the US, Apple TV and Roku, so the streaming devices. And it really, the Key Digital app, it's now become a full-out control system that's perfect for so many applications that might be on a budget, or maybe they just need to control the video routing, the sources, and the displays. You've got your AV routing. You've got those friendly naming, just like you gave us on the configuration questionnaire. So you don't see encoder 1, 2, 3. You'll see, DirecTV 1, 2, 3. Okay. The displays, as you see here, arrivals. So this is like a distribution in an airport terminal. Source and display control, and you see those control panels at the bottom there. So these are only going to be visible if you've applied by choosing the brand of device that you need to control. Otherwise, that's not going to be visible at all. We don't want to confuse the end user. But you got your power on and off, your volume and muting for your displays. For the sources, your guide, your page up, page down, your directional pad. And then we also have now recently added this numerical keypad. You just press this button on the top right of the source control panel, and that just gives you your 1 through 9 buttons and your enter, so that your customers can even discreetly enter the page numbers that they want to, the channel number that they want to view. There's live feed thumbnails that you see here. There is external audio control. So if you want, we could put a volume slider and muting control for those decoders, so that they, for those applications where they're feeding it in, decoders or encoders, excuse me, the audio de-embedding, for those applications where they're feeding it into your amplifier. There's local source switching. So remember, the decoder of the 922 had a local input. So if you want that to be visible, that's another option you could make here. And now you could switch through your control system. And preset save and recall. So this is the one feature that lives in the iPad. On the iPad, you could create presets. So you do all your video routing as you want. You could create a preset, call it opening or closing or noon or DJ mode. And with a single press of the button, the AV system will route as saved when that preset was created. And remember that video wall management. If you have video walls in the system, there's that video wall button that's down at the bottom right, bottom right of the iPad screen. They just choose a source and they could drag that across the UI. It doesn't get any easier for that than that. For those of us who remember what it used to be like to control video walls 10 years ago, required a special PC and all these things, right? So now I want to, the third option I told you we deep dive into is the Open API. And I try to really deliver a lot of information here on this single slide. But for those of you who want to know, how can I control the system from my Crestron or QSC QSys? How do I do that? And how do I make this more powerful than just an AV routing system? Now those control systems can actually utilize these control ports as a sort of expansion of their control system through our Open API. So it's actually quite simple. You know, I mentioned every unit has a main IP address. And if you want to send something to port 1, 2, or 3, you're just going to send that data over IP to the main IP address on IP port 4581, 4582, or 4583, respectively. Very, very simple. So, you know, here we are in the key digital management software on the left here in pink, and we just choose, hey, this port needs to be Open API mode. Otherwise, it would be in there as Compass control mode. And you set it up for RS or IR configuration. If it's RS, you set the baud rate. And when it's RS, anything you send to the encoder or decoder is transparent. So it's going to come out exactly as you've sent it. You just specify ASCII, hex, or binary format in your control system. Very simple, transparent. For IR, we actually have a software that has over 200,000 IR codes and code sets. And when you open up the one you need, you just press this Open API button and you press this copy IR data, and it copies this whole thing. And this is what you're going to send from your control system as the string over IP. And you see the header there. It kind of starts with like the IR frequency. And so it's very, very simple to make this control system, any control system, make these AV over IP encoders, decoders more and more powerful, again, adding the value to the AV over IP from Key Digital. So that was the real marathon session, quick marathon session on the IP 822s, 922s. And you may have recalled the IP 1022s. They were all the way in the left in our product family table. Now, the IP 1022s, you cannot mix and match with the IP 822s, 922s. They're their own thing. They actually look identical to the IP 922s, and they are. I'm going to be totally clear with you. They're the same hardware as the 922s, but as we continue to develop and make things more and more powerful, we can open up every single box and apply a real deep level firmware load here that makes the unit more powerful. It's not possible over USB. We have to go under the hood. That takes time and money. And it's, you know, again, a lot of people say, hey, give me something at a lower price point. So we didn't want to affect the price point of the other products there. And the main two add-ons of the 1022 are that you have independent USB video and audio routing, and you have Mosaic video wall support. Okay, so independent audio, video, and USB. So here's an example of a network operation, emergency operations center, where there's 6 PCs, but there's only 3 operators. And one of these operators, because they have a big video wall in front of them, as our system is capable of doing, this operator is viewing PC number 2, the data from PC 2. They have keyboard into PC number 3, and they are listening to PC 5. And why? Well, because it's all right there in front of them on the video wall, right? And so sometimes this is a necessary part of the application, and the IP 1022 can do this for you. Similarly, the other big add-on is the Mosaic video wall support. So if you're not familiar with Mosaic video walls, It is where essentially instead of the video wall being your canvas, you essentially have a defined space that's a canvas. And with that defined space, you can place displays anywhere you want within that canvas dimension, in horizontal or vertical. They could be different size displays. So the horizontal vertical orientation, not diagonal with our system. And it really gives you this decorating effect. And that's only possible with the IP1022s. Now with these products, we have a special mounting solution, special shelf mounting solution, KD SMS16. Although the number 16 is in the model number, you can only fit a maximum of 12 of these units on the shelf. And that's because you must keep your ventilation. Do not put metal to metal contact here. These units don't run as hot as some of our competitors' units do. Still though, over a prolonged period of time, you run the risk of damaging the units. But this is a great solution, because we know that there are many companies out there that kind of have different form factors for rack mountable encoders and decoders. This gives you a nice clean solution. You're going to see some rack install pictures here that look absolutely fantastic. And if you order these SMS16s, our team will actually mount the encoders on to the shelf mount for you. And they're going to use the extra long screws with the screw glue. And then you just pop it into the rack. It doesn't get any easier than that. So I promised some pictures of some really beautiful racks here. You know, AV over IP, it just, as I mentioned, it does it all. So here's not only all the features and all the possibilities, but all the application types that used to require a specific category of product. So here's a house of worship where they have AV over IP going to projectors and flat panels throughout the system. And it's also using our Compass Control Pro, which has the ability to stream your RTSP inside. So where they've got their cameras and they're routing their cameras throughout the system, they're actually able to preview in the control system app, which is very cool. Here is a surgery center. And, you know, I mentioned the latency is so low, you can literally perform a surgery to it, because they're using these specialized cameras that go inside the patients. And the surgeons are using the monitors that you see here to view that. And we have a very simple solution so that the end user doesn't, which is a surgeon, doesn't have to think all about, oh, where do I, you know, what button do I press to route the video? This is our KDWP8. And a nice rack there. Here is digital signage applications where you have video walls across every single floor of this building. And the beautiful thing about this digital signage is that it's paid for by the credit card companies themselves and in this bank. And so, you know, this is a return on investment for this technology. Speaking of returns on investment, hopefully some folks who have gone to the casino sportsbook are getting some return on investment, or if not, then hopefully our end user customer at the casinos here, where they actually have multiple sites running this 31 feet by 10 foot. So that's right. It's a 32 by 9, essentially, aspect ratio. They have distribution not only for this wall, but all throughout the sportsbook with our AV over IP system. And we use 3 of our multi-viewers to create these specialized layouts here where they could view up to 8 different contents, 8 different games at a single time. Here's a command and control center where the customer is not only using for AV routing 2 video walls, projector, and flanking displays. They also use the KVM functionality of the system here so that their operators are able to view critical data of arrival departure information and control cameras from their NVR systems as well. Courthouse, where they had to go with key digital solution that we customized for them for basically a hybrid, you know, once they had to move to remote participation in the courtroom process, they're using our AV over IP system along with other key digital devices for this specialized system. Of course, corporate applications where these video walls are great. Not, not only just the audio, video, and the USB connectivity, also the video wall capability. Really, really popular there at this end user customer of ours. And we see that it is controlled over Compass Control Pro, making for as easy as possible end user layout, that finger drag capability as well. And then we get into bar restaurant. And, I promise the beautiful rack pictures here, right? Well, it just does not get any cleaner than that. And this features a 4x4 video wall. Just an outstanding job done by our integrator here. And, it really, with AV over IP, it's just going to be the perfect size, the perfect fit for your application, no matter what, So we see the system design that started us off with this job. We see the Compass control programming. So really, Key Digital has the resources for you before, during, and after the sale. And here's one more bar and restaurant. And this one is actually currently on our homepage at keydigital.com. You could scroll down a little bit on the homepage and you'll see this Pig Beach Barbecue AV over IP video case study video. Absolutely beautifully done by our partner. And if it's not on the homepage because you're viewing this in the distant future, well, just go to our YouTube channel and just search Key Digital Pig Beach Barbecue, and I'm sure this will come up for you. But once again, controlled by Compass Control Pro, giving the customer everything they need. And that should be everything you need to get really pumped about Key Digital's 4K AV over IP systems. And if you have any questions about this, then please just direct those questions to sales@keydigital.com, and they're going to take really